Hello, 7th grade. This is Miss Odell. Today in math, we're going to be talking about fraction arithmetic, which is basically adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing fractions. I'm not sure how far we'll get, but we'll work through it and then I'll give you your assignment. Please make sure you watch this video. All right, so this is going to begin on page 31, 32, 33, and 34. All right, so this is important to remember. You're going to highlight some things in your book, or if it's not right there, just make sure you pay attention. But you definitely want to be taking notes for section 1.8. So make sure you're taking notes for section 1.8 fractions. So only fractions with the same denominator can be added or subtracted, okay? So always remember, anytime you are adding or subtracting fractions, you always have to have a common denominator. That is not the case for multiplying and dividing, okay? So add or subtract the numerators and then keep the denominator. So first you got to find a common denominator if they don't have, and then you add or subtract, and then you reduce when possible and express improper fractions as mixed fractions, okay? A lot of this is review, but you're good. So when the denominators are not the same, you can make an equivalent fractions with the LCD. Borrowing may be necessary, or there's other ways that you could find a common denominator, okay? Now, they give you an example here. Here's your fraction. 6 1/4 minus 4 2/3. Now, if it was me, I automatically look at this and I know that I can have a common denominator as 12 without doing this part, okay? So, how do I do that? Just like it shows you right here. You take this denominator and you multiply this fraction by that denominator. You take number 4 denominator and you multiply this fraction by 4. When you do so, you get 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 1 is 3. You have your 6. 4 times 2 is 8. 3 times 4 is 12. And then you have your 4. So always want to begin with your whole numbers when you're subtracting. And so 6 minus 4 is 2. But back up here, wait a minute, I went too quick because we don't have a larger numerator on the top, so we have to borrow. So you're going to change this to a 5. And what I like to tell you, I told you guys yesterday, is you take the denominator and you add the denominator to the numerator. That makes 15, and that now you're ready to subtract. So 1, and then 15 minus 8 is 7 over 12, and that answer is correct. All right, so here we have some other fractions. These are some examples that are, I think, in your textbook. And this section is really review. However, many of you may have struggled with it in the past, and that's why the textbook reviews all these things. You will be using fractions in algebra a lot in many cases, okay? Now, so in this instance, we have 6 1/4, and we are subtracting 4 2/3. I think that's the one we just did. Actually, we did this slide, okay? So let's talk about what you can do, okay? Let me give you an example. Actually, we're going to do some practice problems here with adding and subtracting before we go on to multiplying. And we may do that today. We may do the adding and subtracting today and then go on to multiplying and dividing tomorrow, okay? All right, so let's just say that you have 12 over 15 plus 2 over 15. Now, this can be written in two ways. Either horizontal, which goes this way, or vertical, which goes this way. You could write it as 12 over 15 plus 2 over 15, and that gives you 14 over 15. Then you ask yourself, is this completely simplified? Is it in its lowest terms? Is it an improper fraction? If it's an improper fraction, you want to change it back to a mixed number, and you guys remember how to do that, okay? So let's just say that we have 3/5. Let's change that 5. Remember, you're taking notes on this, okay? And you are let's just add this time. 7/5. I do not have a common denominator here. But I can easily get a common denominator because I know that 5 is a factor of 10. So I ask myself, what can I multiply by 5 to get 10? And that is 2. Okay? So this becomes 14, and this becomes 10. Now remember, when you're adding and subtracting fractions, you have to have a common denominator, but you do not add or subtract those denominators. They stay the same. You carry them over. So then you have 14, or 3 plus 14, which equals 17. Now, you have 17 over 10. That is an improper fraction. And remember, this is where we divide, and this is where some of you struggled a little bit. So let's just practice this, okay? So remember, the bottom denominator drops outside the house, so the 17 can drop inside. I know that's cheesy, but... All right, so 10 will go into 17 one time. So 17 subtract 10 is 7. Remember, this is your whole number. The number on top of the house is always the whole number. That's the big number. Your remainder is your numerator, and then your denominator stays the same. So your answer is 1 and 7 over 10. Okay? That's if your answer is in fraction form. It's important to remember that, okay? Let's do a few more together. All right, so let's just say that we have 27 and 3/9. We're going to subtract 19 and 7 over 15. Now, we have an issue here because we don't have common denominators. 9 is not a factor of 15. 15 is not a factor of 9. So you're going to ask yourself some questions. You can either do the LCD method, or you can multiply the denominators together. In other words, you can take 15 and multiply this by 15 and multiply this by 15. Take this denominator and multiply it by 9. And which is probably the best option here. Okay? So then 27... 3 times 15 is 45 over 9 times 15 is 135 minus 19. Denominator's 135. 7 times 9 is 63. Again, we've got to change this to 26. This is a more complicated problem. I do know that, but I want to make sure that you understand what you do. Okay, so I borrowed. I'm going to add my denominator to my numerator, and when I do that, I get 180. And now I'm ready to subtract. Okay, so 26 minus 19 is 7. 180 minus 63 is 117 over 135. Can this be reduced? Yes, it can be reduced to 13 over 15. Okay? And to get this answer, you divided both of them by 9, and that gave you the 13 over 15. So your final answer is 7 and 13 over 15. There's probably an easier way to do that, but I wanted you to see how, if you don't know what's common, that you can multiply those two denominators together, okay? All right, let's do 1 or 2 more here, and then I'm going to give you an assignment, okay? Let's say that we have, okay, yes, it is. All right, so here in this case, I have to have common denominators, so I'm going to multiply. I'm going to take this denominator, I'm going to multiply top and bottom of this fraction, okay? I'm going to take this denominator, and you're just switching it out, okay? Because you know that if you multiply 5 times 9, you get 45. Or 5 times 9, you get 45. So now you have 10, or you could just do it this way. And make this 15, and make this 10. make this, I'm sorry, not 15, 45. 45 over 4 times 9 is 36. Now, your numerator on the top is smaller than it is on the bottom, but you're fine because you are adding. So you're going to get 18 and 10 plus 36, which is 46 over 45. Now, we do have an improper fraction, so I'm going to change this part of this fraction to 45, and I'm going to divide it, and I'm going to have 1 and 1 over 45. Now, what am I going to do with this fraction here? I'm going to add 1 to the 18, and that makes it 19 and 1/15 and 45th. That's your answer. 19 and 1 over 45. All right, let's do this next one here. This one is subtraction. Same thing. Times 7, got it from here, times 7, times 4, times 4. 11, 20 over 4 times 7 is 28, minus 6, 21 over 28. I'm going to have to borrow again, make him 10, add 28 to 20, and that gives me 48. Now I'm ready to subtract, and I'm going to get 4. And 48 minus 21 is 17 over 28. And that is in lowest term, so there's no other reducing there. All right, so here is what you're going to do. First of all, you are going to post the word improper fractions or words when you turn in your assignment to let me know that you watched the video. Improper fractions, okay? That'll give you an extra grade there. All right, so you're going to do page 34, and you are going to do 1 through 12 all. 1 through 12 all. Make sure you show your work, even if you need to do this on separate paper. Just, show your work and then turn in, okay? All right, guys, have a great day. Subtracting mixed numbers.